I stared at the old vacation photo, my finger tracing the edges where I should have been. There was Ross, front and center as always, his perfect smile lighting up the frame while our parents beamed beside him. The tropical paradise backdrop felt like a mockery of my perpetual absence. My name is Tessa, and I'm the daughter who wasn't worth including in the family album. Isn't this exciting? Mom's voice pulled me back to our present family dinner. A whole week at the Grand Cayman Resort. She was practically bouncing in her seat, wine glass dangerously close to spilling. Ross and his new wife, Serena, sat across from me, both glowing with that special kind of happiness reserved for the chosen ones. The engagement ring on Serena's finger caught the light, sending little rainbow prisms dancing across the white tablecloth. The honeymoon suite has its own private pool, Serena gushed, scrolling through photos on her phone. And look at this spa package. I pushed my barely touched lasagna around my plate, stomach churning. When exactly are you all going? Next week, Dad said quietly, not quite meeting my eyes. He was always the one who seemed to notice when these things hurt me, but never enough to actually speak up. Next week? I set down my fork. But that's right before the holiday rush for my online shop. Mom, you promised to help me with the packaging. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Oh, honey, you can handle that little hobby of yours for a few days. This is a special occasion, Ross and Serena's first vacation as a married couple. And you're all going? The words came out sharper than I intended. Ross cleared his throat. Well, you see, sis, the thing is, we got this amazing family package deal, but it only covers 4 people. And since Mom and Dad are paying, we would have loved to include you, Serena jumped in, her sympathy so perfectly practiced it made my teeth hurt. But the extra person rate is just astronomical. I looked around the table, at Mom's practiced smile, Dad's guilty expression, Ross's casual superiority, and Serena's manufactured concern. The familiar weight of being the family afterthought settled onto my shoulders. Right, I said, pushing back from the table. Astronomical, unlike the designer handbag Mom bought you last week, Serena, or Ross's new golf clubs. Tessa, Mom's voice took on that warning tone she reserved for when I wasn't playing my assigned role of supportive sister. Don't be difficult. We're celebrating Ross and Serena's happiness. When aren't we? I muttered, standing up. Excuse me, I need some air. I grabbed my coat and headed for the front door, ignoring Mom's calls behind me. The cool evening air hit my face as I stepped onto the porch, and I took deep breaths to steady myself. Tess? Dad's voice came from behind me. I'm sorry, sweetie. I tried to suggest we wait until we could afford for everyone. Don't, Dad. I turned to face him. Don't pretend you fought for me. We both know you never do. His face crumpled. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time anyone in this family fought for me? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my shop's latest orders. You know what? It's fine. I have work to do anyway. Real work, not just a little hobby like Mom says. Your mother doesn't mean... Yes, she does. I cut him off. She absolutely means it. Just like she meant it when she forgot my college graduation because Ross had a job interview, or when she gave Serena grandmother's wedding ring without even asking if I might want it someday. The door opened again, and Ross stepped out. Come on, sis, don't make this weird. It's just a vacation. I looked at my brother, my successful, favored, golden child brother, and something inside me snapped. Not in the breaking way, but in the way a rubber band snaps back, finding its shape. You're right, Ross. I smiled, and both men took an unconscious step back. It's just a vacation, and I'm just going to stay here and work on my little hobby. You all have fun. I walked to my car, ignoring their calls. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of Mom and Serena in the dining room window, probably already planning their resort wardrobes. The family photo from my wallet fell onto the passenger seat, and I finally let myself feel the anger I'd been suppressing for years. They wanted to leave me behind? Fine. But this time, I wasn't going to sit quietly and wait for them to remember I existed. This time, I was going to make them wish they'd thought twice about excluding me. My phone buzzed with another order notification. Maybe it was time to turn my little hobby into something they couldn't ignore. The house felt emptier than usual the morning after they left. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop screen while my coffee grew cold. Their vacation photos were already flooding social media. Mom, Dad, Ross, and Serena boarding their flight, all matching designer luggage and perfect smiles. My phone buzzed. It was Valeria. "Tell me you're not stalking their Instagram," she said without preamble. "I'm not stalking their Instagram." I switched tabs to my shop's dashboard. "I'm looking at their Facebook instead." "Girl, stop. Come over. I've got mimosas and a business proposition for you." An hour later, I was sitting on Valeria's couch while she paced her living room, gesturing with her champagne flute. "Look at these numbers," she said, pointing to my shop's analytics. "You're getting serious traffic, but your conversion rate is trash. Your products are amazing, but your website looks like it was built in 2005. "Thanks for the brutal honesty," I said. But I knew she was right. My handmade jewelry and accessories had been steadily gaining attention, but I'd been too busy fulfilling orders to focus on the business side. "You know what? Screw their vacation." Valeria set down her glass. "Let's use this week to transform your little hobby into an empire." I laughed. "An empire? Val, I work out of my spare bedroom. For now." She grabbed her laptop. "But I've been doing some research. There's a pop-up shop space available downtown next week. Perfect timing for holiday shopping. And I know a guy who designs websites for major retailers." My phone pinged with an email notification. I opened it and nearly dropped my phone. "Val," I whispered, "remember that influencer who wore my moonstone necklace last month? Her stylist just ordered 20 pieces for a celebrity client's winter collection." Valeria screamed and grabbed my hands. "This is it. This is your moment. How fast can you make them?" I don't know. I've never had an order this big." "Then we need to scale up. Now." She pulled up a spreadsheet. "You've got savings, right? The money you were going to use for that trip to Europe?" I nodded slowly. The trip I'd canceled when Ross announced his engagement, because Mom insisted I help with wedding preparations instead. "Invest it. All of it." Valeria's eyes were blazing. "I'll help you set up a proper production line. Hire some part-time help. We can do this, Tess." My hands were shaking as I opened my banking app. "You really think this could work?" "I know it will." She grabbed her keys. "Come on, we're going shopping for supplies right now, and then we're meeting my web designer friend for dinner." The next few hours were a blur of wholesale jewelry suppliers, packaging vendors, and equipment stores. By evening, my car was packed with supplies, and my savings account was considerably lighter. At dinner, Valeria's friend turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman named Maya who took one look at my current website and actually winced. "Okay, here's what we're going to do," Maya said, sketching on a napkin. "Clean, minimalist design, high-res product photos, integrated social media feeds, and we need to tell your story." "My story?" "Yeah, your brand story. What drives you? What makes your pieces special?" She paused. "What made you start this business?" I thought about all the times I'd been overlooked, pushed aside, told to wait my turn. About channeling that hurt into creating beautiful things that made other people feel seen and special. "I make pieces that help people shine," I said slowly, "even when they're used to standing in someone else's shadow." Maya's eyes lit up. "That's it. That's your angle." She pulled out her tablet. "We can have the new site ready in 3 days, but we'll need content. Photos, videos, your journey." "I can help with that," Valeria chimed in. "I've got a friend who does commercial photography." My phone buzzed again. Another Instagram notification, Ross and Serena posing by their private pool, Mom commenting about her perfect children. I turned off notifications and looked at the women around me. "Let's do this. All of it. That's my girl, Valeria raised her glass. To building an empire. Later that night, as I organized my new supplies in my workspace, another email came through. This one was from a business newsletter I subscribed to, announcing a local entrepreneurs meetup happening tomorrow. The featured speaker? A successful investor named Lucas Wong, known for spotting and funding promising small businesses. I looked at my newly organized workspace, thought about the website in progress, and the massive order I needed to fill. Then I opened my calendar and marked the meetup time. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. No more playing small. No more standing in shadows. Let them have their perfect vacation. I had an empire to build. The entrepreneurs' meetup was packed, and I felt severely underdressed in my casual blazer and jeans. Valeria had insisted on coming with me, claiming moral support, but really there to prevent me from chickening out. "Stop fidgeting," she whispered as we found seats near the front. "You look like a boss." "I look like someone who makes jewelry in their spare bedroom," I muttered back. "Not anymore." She pointed to my phone, where Maya had just sent the first preview of my new website. "You look like someone who's about to own the game." The lights dimmed, and Lucas Wong took the stage. He was younger than I expected, dressed in a simple black sweater that probably cost more than my car. His presence commanded attention without trying. "Success isn't about having the best idea," he began. "It's about having the courage to execute that idea when everyone else says you can't." My phone buzzed. Another vacation photo from Mom. I turned it face down. "I'm looking for businesses with heart," Lucas continued. "Companies that solve real problems, that connect with real people. Today, I want to hear your stories." The next hour was a blur of pitches and presentations. Some polished, some nervous, all hoping to catch Lucas's attention. When he opened the floor for impromptu pitches, Valeria's elbow found my ribs. "Go," she hissed. "Now." Before I could think better of it, my hand was up. Lucas nodded in my direction. Standing on shaky legs, I took a deep breath. "My name is Tessa. I create custom jewelry that helps people feel seen." The room quieted. Lucas leaned forward slightly. "Every piece tells a story," I continued, touching the moonstone pendant I was wearing. "This one? I made it after being told my creative business was just a hobby. It represents transformation, the way moonstone changes in different light, just like we all contain different facets waiting to be recognized." I pulled up my shop's analytics on my phone. Last month, one of my pieces was featured by a major influencer. Since then, my traffic has increased by 300%. Yesterday, I received my first celebrity stylist order. But more importantly, I get messages every day from customers telling me how wearing my pieces gives them confidence, helps them feel valuable. Lucas's eyes hadn't left my face. "And what's your scale-up strategy?" "I'm launching a new website next week, opening a pop-up shop for the holiday season, and establishing a production line to handle larger orders." I smiled. "Because it turns out being overlooked gives you plenty of time to plan." A few people chuckled. Lucas didn't. "See me after," was all he said, before moving on to the next pitch. Later, as people were filing out, he approached our table. Up close, his intensity was almost uncomfortable. "Your story resonates," he said, sitting down. "But I need to know, are you ready to be seen? Really seen? Because once you step into the spotlight, there's no going back to being overlooked." I thought about Mom's dismissive wave, Ross's casual superiority, Serena's practiced sympathy. I've spent my whole life being ready. He nodded slowly, then pulled out a business card. "I'm hosting a private investment event next week. Come, bring your business plan and samples." He paused. "And bring that moonstone piece. It has a good story." After he left, Valeria squealed and hugged me. "This is huge. We need to prepare. Like, everything. Your pitch, your samples, your—" My phone rang. Dad's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, sweetie," he said when I answered. Just checking in, making sure you're okay on your own. I looked at Lucas's business card, at the website preview on my laptop, at Valeria's excited face. I'm not on my own, Dad. I'm actually at a business meeting right now. Oh, he sounded surprised. For your jewelry thing? My company, I corrected gently. And yes, how's the vacation? Good, good. Your mother wanted me to remind you to water her plants. Of course she did. The plants are fine, Dad. I need to go. I have another meeting to prepare for. After hanging up, Valeria squeezed my hand. You okay? I tucked Lucas's card into my wallet, right where that old family photo used to be. I'm better than okay. I'm ready. Then let's go. We've got an empire to build, remember? As we left the venue, my phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Website's ahead of schedule. Ready to shoot your founder's video tomorrow? I looked at Valeria, who was already pulling up her calendar. Tomorrow works, I replied. Time to tell my story. The sun was setting as we drove home, casting long shadows across the city. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of standing in them. Because soon, very soon, I'd be casting my own. Just be natural, Maya said from behind the camera. Pretend you're talking to a friend. I sat in my workspace, surrounded by my jewelry pieces, feeling anything but natural. We'd been filming for 3 hours, and I still couldn't get through my brand story without stumbling. Maybe we should take a break, Valeria suggested, checking her watch. The lighting's still good for product shots. My phone buzzed. Another vacation photo. This time it was Serena in a designer sundress, caption reading, "Living my best life with my perfect family." I switched off the screen. No, I said, straightening my shoulders. One more try. Maya adjusted the camera. Rolling. I took a deep breath and looked directly into the lens. Everyone has a moment when they realize they're tired of being invisible. Mine came 3 days ago, when my family left for a luxury vacation without me. Again. Valeria's eyes widened behind Maya, but I kept going. I've spent years creating pieces that make people feel special, because I know what it's like to be the afterthought. Each design comes from a place of understanding what it means to want to be seen. I held up the moonstone pendant. This piece, it's about transformation, about taking the pain of being overlooked and turning it into something beautiful. Maya lowered the camera, grinning. That's the one. That's your story. My phone rang. It was the celebrity stylist's assistant. Ms. Tessa, we need to move up the delivery date. Is there any way you can have the pieces ready by next week? I looked at my workbench, where half the order was still unfinished. Next week? The shoot got rescheduled. We can offer a rush fee. Valeria was already pulling up calculators on her phone, mouthing, "Say yes." I can make it happen, I heard myself say. Send me the details. After hanging up, I slumped in my chair. Val, that's impossible. I can't make 10 more pieces by next week, not alone. Who said anything about alone? She was already typing on her phone. Remember Maria from college? She's between jobs and used to make jewelry. And my cousin just finished her design program. Within an hour, my workspace was transformed into a mini production line. Maria and Valeria's cousin Sophie arrived, and after a crash course in my techniques, we fell into a rhythm. This is actually therapeutic, Maria said, carefully setting stones. Way better than my last office job. Sophie looked up from her work. You know what would be cool? If we filmed this for your social media. Show people the process, the craftsmanship. Maya, who was still there editing the brand video, immediately grabbed her camera. The next few days blurred together. We worked late into the night, taking turns making coffee runs and sharing stories. Maya captured everything, the detailed work, the late-night laughs, the moment when we finished the last piece and all collapsed on my living room floor at 3 a.m. Check your emails, Valeria mumbled, half asleep on my couch. I opened my laptop to find a message from Lucas Wong. Saw your content going live. Impressive turnaround. Looking forward to our meeting tomorrow. Bring your team. My team? I looked around at the women sprawled across my living room, all of them somehow managing to look both exhausted and accomplished. Hell yes, your team, Maria said, sitting up. We're not missing this. The next morning, running on coffee and adrenaline, we walked into Lucas's office building. The celebrity order was safely delivered, the new website was live, and our behind-the-scenes content was gaining traction online. Your social media engagement has tripled, Lucas said without preamble, gesturing for us to sit. And your story about transformation? It's resonating. People are sharing their own stories of feeling invisible, finding their power. He pulled up our analytics on his screen. You've built more than a jewelry line. You've built a community. We've built it, I corrected, looking at my team. Lucas smiled for the first time. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. He slid a folder across the desk. Here's my offer. Investment, mentorship, and connections. But I want to move fast. The holiday season is coming. My phone buzzed. Another vacation photo. This time, I didn't even look. How fast? I asked. Launch party next week. Full media coverage. Your family's still away, right? I nodded slowly, beginning to smile. Perfect timing, he said. Let's show them what they missed. Walking out of his office, contract signed and plans in motion, I felt lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed again, Mom asking if I'd remembered to collect their mail. Should I respond? I asked Valeria. She linked her arm through mine. Nah, let's keep them guessing. They want a surprise? We'll give them one they'll never forget. 5 minutes until we go live, Maya called out across the transformed warehouse space. The launch party venue buzzed with last-minute preparations, staff adjusting displays, photographers setting up equipment, caterers arranging elegant appetizer trays. I stood in front of a full-length mirror, barely recognizing myself. Gone was the overlooked sister in casual clothes. Instead, I wore a sleek black dress adorned with my own creations. Multiple delicate necklaces layered perfectly, each telling its own story of transformation. Your hands are shaking, Valeria said, appearing behind me with a glass of water. Drink this. What if nobody comes? I whispered. She pointed to her phone, showing the RSVP list. Are you kidding? We're over capacity. That video of yours went viral yesterday. The one about turning pain into beauty? People are calling you the transformation jeweler. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Hope you're doing okay, sweetie. Your mother wants to know if you've been watering her orchids. Still nothing about the business posts? Valeria asked, reading over my shoulder. They probably haven't even seen them. Too busy having fun in paradise. I put my phone away. Let's do this. The doors opened and people flooded in. Fashion bloggers, local media, potential buyers, all eager to see the brand that had been creating buzz all week. Lucas worked the room like a pro, introducing me to key players in the industry. Your story resonates with people, a magazine editor told me, examining a display of moonstone pieces. Everyone knows what it feels like to be invisible sometimes. You've tapped into something powerful here. Maya's video played on loop on massive screens, showing the late nights, the craftsmanship, the transformation from spare bedroom operation to professional production. But it was the personal story that kept stopping people in their tracks. That part about being left behind, a buyer from a major department store said, wiping her eyes. When you said, sometimes the people who should see you the clearest are the ones who look right through you, I felt that in my soul. Orders poured in. The website crashed twice from traffic. Our social media followers doubled, then tripled. Each piece sold came with a card asking buyers to share their own transformation stories. Tessa, Lucas called out, waving me over to where he stood with a group of serious-looking investors. They want to discuss international distribution. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ross. Hey sis, brought you a souvenir keychain. Missing anything exciting? Before I could respond, Maria rushed over. We just got featured on 3 major fashion blogs. They're calling us the next big thing in accessible luxury. Another buzz. Mom this time. Darling, we're having such a wonderful time. Shame you couldn't be here to see Ross and Serena enjoying themselves. I looked around at my reality, the packed venue, the sold-out displays, my team celebrating our success, and finally typed back, "Don't worry about me. I've been keeping busy." "Tessa," Sophie called urgently, "the morning show wants to interview you tomorrow." The night blurred into a whirlwind of handshakes, contracts, and congratulations. By closing time, my feet were killing me, but my heart was soaring. "Final numbers are in," Valeria announced as we collapsed onto a couch after the last guest left. "We made 6 months of your old revenue. In one night." "Holy shit," I whispered. "That's not all." She pulled up her tablet. "The investment group wants to fast-track the expansion. They're talking flagship stores in major cities." My phone buzzed one last time. A group photo from their vacation. Everyone smiling on a yacht. Caption reading, "Perfect family vacation with the people who matter most." Lucas, who was passing by, caught a glimpse of the photo. "They still don't know?" I shook my head. "They get back tomorrow." He smiled that shrewd smile of his. "Perfect, because guess what? That morning show interview? It's going to air right when their flight lands." "You planned that, didn't you?" "Timing is everything in business," he shrugged. "And in karma." Looking at the vacation photo one last time, I felt something shift inside me. Not anger anymore, but something calmer. Stronger. "You know what?" I said, standing up. "Let's do something special for the morning show. I want to debut a new piece." "What are you thinking?" Valeria asked. I picked up a rough diamond from our display, beautiful in its natural state, waiting to be transformed. Something about finding your own light, about how sometimes being left behind just means you're free to move forward. "Perfect," Maya said, already reaching for her camera. "Let's get to work." As we gathered our things to leave, I took one last look around the venue. Tomorrow my family would land, expecting to find the same invisible Tessa they'd left behind. They had no idea what was coming. The morning show interview went viral before my family's plane even landed. I sat in my newly rented office space, watching the clips circulate online. Me, poised and professional, telling my story while showcasing the new Rising Light collection. "Your phone's blowing up," Valeria said, scrolling through our notifications. "The hashtag Sark Transformation Jeweler is trending." My hands trembled slightly as I checked the time. "Their flight landed 20 minutes ago." "Still radio silence?" "Complete." I refreshed my messages. Though Mom did send a mass text about having dinner at their house tonight to share vacation stories. The office door burst open and Maria rushed in. The department store order just doubled, and that celebrity stylist? Her client wants an exclusive line. My phone finally buzzed. A text from Dad. "Saw something interesting on TV this morning. Can we talk before dinner?" "Not now, Dad," I muttered, typing a quick, "Busy, see you tonight" response. The day passed in a blur of meetings and order processing. By evening, I'd changed into a simple black dress adorned with my newest pieces, including the rough diamond pendant I'd finished for the morning show. "Ready?" Valeria asked, pulling up to my parents' house. "No," I admitted, "but I'm done waiting to be ready." The familiar sound of laughter spilled out as I opened the front door. They were all gathered in the living room, tanned and relaxed from their vacation, surrounded by shopping bags and souvenirs. "Tessa!" Mom called out, not looking up from the photos she was showing Serena. "There's your keychain on the counter. Ross picked it out specially." "Thanks," I said, not moving to get it. "How was the trip?" "Amazing," Serena gushed. "The spa treatments alone were worth—" She finally looked up and froze, taking in my appearance. "Oh, wow, you look different." That got everyone's attention. Mom's eyes widened as she noticed my jewelry. "Those are unusual pieces." They're mine, I said simply. I designed them. Made them. Right, your hobby, Ross chuckled. Hey, speaking of which, did you water Mom's plants? The orchids look a little… I saw you on TV, Dad interrupted quietly. This morning. The room went silent. Mom's smile faltered. What TV? The morning show, I said, pulling out my phone to show them the clip. They wanted to interview me about my company's launch. Company? Ross laughed. Come on, sis. It's cute that you make jewelry, but we sold out our entire holiday collection in one night, I cut him off. The launch party was yesterday. Major retailers are placing orders. We're opening flagship stores in 3 cities next year. We? Mom asked faintly. My team. My investors. I met her eyes. While you were all away, I built something. Something real. Serena was frantically scrolling through her phone. Oh my God, she whispered. She's trending. The transformation story. About being left behind. About us. About me, I corrected. About what happens when you stop waiting for people to see your value and start creating it yourself. Mom's face flushed. Tessa, if this is about the vacation… It's not about the vacation, I said, though we all knew that wasn't entirely true. It's about every time you dismissed me. Every time you called my work a hobby. Every time you chose… The doorbell rang, cutting me off. Through the front window, I could see a delivery truck. That's for me, I said, standing up. The first shipment for our department store launch. They followed me outside, watching in stunned silence as the driver unloaded box after box of professionally packaged jewelry. Each piece tells a story, I explained, opening one of the boxes to show them. About transformation. About finding your light. About turning pain into beauty. Tessa, Dad started, his voice thick. I had no idea. I know, I said softly. That was kind of the point. My phone buzzed. Lucas sending confirmation of another major order. As I replied, I caught Mom staring at the rough diamond pendant I wore. It's beautiful, she whispered. Different from anything I've seen. Like its creator, Dad said quietly. Ross stood awkwardly by the boxes, all his usual confidence gone. So, you're really doing this? Like for real? I looked at my family, really looked at them, and felt the last of my anger transform into something else. Something stronger. No, I said, signing the delivery confirmation. I've already done it. And this is just the beginning. The setting sun caught my pendant, sending fragments of light dancing across their faces. For the first time in my life, I wasn't standing in anyone's shadow. I was casting my own light. The dinner table was unnaturally quiet. Mom kept glancing between her plate and my jewelry, while Ross pushed his food around without eating. Only Serena seemed to be making an effort, chattering nervously about their vacation activities. And then we went snorkeling, which was just amazing, right, Ross? Ross? Huh? Oh, yeah. Amazing. He looked up at me. So, sis, how much are you actually making with this company? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a notification. Lucas had shared our latest sales figures in the team chat. Valeria immediately texted, "Don't tell them the number. Let them wonder." Enough, I said simply, taking a sip of water. But surely not as much as Ross makes at his firm, Mom interjected quickly. I mean, he's a senior account manager now, and… Kennedy, Dad cut her off sharply. Stop. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Dad had never interrupted her before, especially not when she was praising Ross. I'm just saying, she continued flustered, that while Tessa's little business is impressive, we shouldn't get carried away. Little business? I pulled up the morning show clip on my phone and set it on the table. Watch it. Actually watch it this time. They huddled around the screen, faces changing as they watched the interview. The camera panned across our sold-out launch party, showcased our production facility, highlighted the major retailers who'd signed contracts. That's impossible, Ross whispered. You did all this in a week? No, I said. I built this over years. You just never bothered to notice. Serena was rapidly typing on her phone. The comments on your posts, people are calling you an inspiration, sharing their own stories about being overlooked by family. Mom's face went pale. Tessa, are you trying to embarrass us? I'm trying to succeed. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Maya sending a preview of tomorrow's magazine feature. The headline read, "The Transformation Jeweler, How Being Left Behind Launched an Empire." An empire? Ross laughed, but it sounded hollow. Come on, you can't be serious. The doorbell rang again. This time it was a courier with a priority envelope. Sign here, Ms. Tessa, he said. Congratulations on the international deal, by the way. My wife loves your pieces. The room went dead silent as I opened the envelope. Inside was a contract for European distribution, with a number that made even my hands shake. May I? Dad asked quietly. I handed him the contract. His eyes widened as he read. Oh my God. What? Mom tried to grab the paper. How much? More than Ross's annual salary, Dad said. Much more. Ross stood up so abruptly his chair fell backward. This isn't fair. I've worked my ass off at the firm, played by all the rules. Rules. I stood too, finally letting years of quiet rage surface. You mean like having every advantage, every opportunity, every family vacation? Those rules? I earned those things. And I earned this. I gestured to the contract. The difference is, I did it while being treated like an afterthought. Like my dreams didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. That's not true, Mom protested weakly. Really? I pulled out my phone again. Should we count how many photos you posted from your vacation? How many times you called me perfect family while excluding me? Or should we talk about how you still haven't congratulated me on building a 7-figure business in under a year? Serena suddenly stood up. I need to go, she mumbled, grabbing her purse. Serena, wait, Ross called after her. No, Ross. I can't be here right now. This isn't... She looked at me, then at Mom. This isn't right. What you did to her wasn't right. The front door slammed behind her. Ross slumped back into his chair, looking lost. My phone buzzed one final time. Lucas confirming tomorrow's meeting with international investors. Your story's resonating globally, he wrote. Ready to take it worldwide? I looked at my family. Mom's shocked face, Ross's defeat, Dad's quiet pride mixed with shame. The perfect family portrait was cracking, revealing the truth beneath. I should go, I said, gathering my things. I have an early meeting tomorrow, about expanding into Europe. Tessa, Mom called as I reached the door. I don't know what to say. I touched my rough diamond pendant, feeling its strength. That's okay, Mom. For once you don't have to say anything. My work is speaking for itself. I walked out into the night, leaving them with their shattered illusions and the weight of their choices. My phone was already lighting up with tomorrow's opportunities. They wanted a perfect family story. I'd given them something better. I'd given them the truth. The morning sun streamed through the windows of my new office as I finished signing the European distribution contracts. Lucas sat across from me, a rare smile on his face. Congratulations, he said, collecting the papers. You're officially international. My phone buzzed. A text from Ross. Can we talk? Please? Family still processing? Lucas asked, noting my expression. Something like that. I showed him the text. This is the third message this week. You don't owe them anything, he reminded me. But? Sometimes the biggest power move is showing grace. He stood up. Just something to think about. After he left, I called Ross back. Coffee in 20 minutes, the shop near my office. He was already there when I arrived, looking uncomfortable in the trendy cafe filled with people working on laptops, several wearing my designs. Thanks for meeting me, he said as I sat down. I've been doing a lot of thinking. That's new, I couldn't help saying. I deserve that. He stared into his coffee. Serena left. That surprised me. What? Why? She said she couldn't be with someone who treated their sister like a second-class citizen. Said watching your story made her realize some things about me. About us. He looked up. She was right. Before I could respond, the barista approached our table. Oh my God, your hair! The transformation jeweler! She touched her necklace, one of my pieces. Your story inspired me to finally start my own business. After she left, Ross shook his head. That happens a lot, doesn't it? More every day. I watched all your interviews, he said quietly. Read all the articles, the comments. Do you know what hit me hardest? When you said you stopped waiting to be seen and decided to become impossible to ignore. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. I declined it. She's a mess, you know, Ross continued. Keeps looking at old family photos, crying about how she never noticed. And Dad? He's different. Stands up to her now. Called her out yesterday when she tried to minimize your success again. Ross smiled slightly. Said his daughter was a business genius, and it was time we all admitted it. The cafe door opened and Valeria burst in. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. That major fashion house that wanted a collaboration? They're here early. Like now. I stood up, gathering my things. Wait, Ross grabbed my arm. I need to say this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every time I took advantage, every time I accepted preferential treatment, every time I watched you be pushed aside and said nothing. I was wrong. Yes, you were. I know I can't fix it, but I want to try to be better. To be the brother you deserved. Valeria cleared her throat pointedly. I have to go, I said. But Ross? Thanks for saying that. Back at the office, after the fashion house meeting, another success, I found a small package on my desk. Inside was an old family photo I'd never seen before, me at about 7, showing Dad a beaded necklace I'd made. I was beaming with pride, and he was looking at me like I was magic. A note from Dad was attached. I found this while cleaning the attic. Thought you should have it. I'm sorry I forgot how to look at you this way. So proud of you, sweetheart. My phone buzzed again. Mom. This time I answered. Tessa, she said, her voice shaky. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but would you have dinner with me? Just us? I need to really listen this time. I looked at the photo on my desk, then at my office, my empire built from years of being overlooked. Okay, I said. But Mom, this time, I'm choosing the restaurant. After hanging up, I walked to our production floor where Maria and Sophie were training new staff. On the wall hung our company motto, Transform Your Story. My phone lit up with a message from Lucas. Ready for phase 2? Asia's waiting. I touched my rough diamond pendant, feeling its familiar strength. The stone that had started as something overlooked, now transformed into something impossible to ignore. Just like me. Ready, I typed back. The afternoon sun caught my jewelry displays, sending light dancing across the room. Each piece told a story of transformation, of rising above, of turning pain into power. But more than that, they told my story. The story of a woman who stopped waiting in shadows and learned to create her own light. I'd wanted revenge, but I'd found something better. I'd found myself. And that was the most powerful transformation of all.
I'm Sarah, and this is the story of how my family tried to take everything from me. On Christmas Eve, my sister Callie discovered I had $15 million, and within minutes, my entire family turned on me. They called me selfish, ungrateful, a terrible daughter for not handing over my hard-earned money. But that was just the beginning. The lies started stacking up. The manipulation, the betrayal, it ran deeper than I ever imagined. They forged my signature, stole from my accounts, even tried to have me declared mentally unfit just to take control of what I built. And worst of all, they never saw anything wrong with it. I thought I was prepared for their greed, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. The scent of cinnamon and roasted turkey filled the air as I stepped into my parents' house. Christmas Eve in Chicago had always been the same: twinkling lights, over-decorated halls, and forced smiles masking the undercurrent of tension that simmered beneath the surface. I adjusted my coat, shaking off the biting winter cold as I walked toward the living room. The place was warm, cozy, yet suffocating in a way I couldn't quite describe. My mother, Eleanor, had gone all out this year. Gold-trimmed napkins, a lavishly set dining table, and a ridiculously oversized Christmas tree that almost reached the ceiling. Callie, my younger sister, was already basking in the attention as I entered. Dressed in a designer red dress, she leaned dramatically against the fireplace, her laughter echoing through the room. "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe the deal I got on this bag," she gushed, holding up her newest luxury purchase. "It was on sale for $1,800. Can you believe that steal?" I forced a polite smile. Same old Callie, always flaunting, always needing the spotlight. "Hey, Sarah, glad you could make it," my father, Gregory, said, without looking up from his bourbon. "Of course," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. The night went as expected. Callie dominated the conversation. Mother fussed over her, and Dad sat back, sipping his drink, offering occasional nods of approval. I had long learned to blend into the background, but tonight there was something different. Callie's eyes kept darting toward my purse, her gaze lingering on my laptop bag. There was an unsettling eagerness in her expression, like a predator waiting for the right moment to pounce. I should have known. The disaster unfolded while I was in the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of wine. A shriek rang through the house, high-pitched and theatrical. "Oh my God!" Callie's voice cut through the chatter, stopping every conversation dead in its tracks. I froze, dread curling in my stomach like a living thing. $15 million! Are you freaking kidding me? Silence fell. I stepped into the living room, my pulse hammering. All eyes were on Callie, who stood in the center of the room, clutching my laptop in her manicured hands. The screen was angled toward the guests, displaying a number I had never intended anyone in this house to see. "Tell me this is a joke," she demanded, her voice laced with something far more dangerous than disbelief. Entitlement. I felt my blood turn to ice. The room erupted into chaos. My mother gasped, pressing a hand to her chest as if she were about to faint. My father's grip on his drink tightened, his eyes narrowing. The guests murmured in hushed, scandalized tones. "You've been sitting on millions while Mom and Dad are struggling?" Callie's voice was shrill, accusatory. My throat was dry. "That's my money, Callie, my business, my work." But she wasn't listening. "You let us suffer," Eleanor wailed, playing her role to perfection. "We've been drowning in bills, and you never once thought to help us?" Gregory exhaled sharply, shaking his head in disappointment. "We are your parents, Sarah. We raised you, and you just— What? Keep this fortune to yourself?" I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palm. My parents had never struggled a day in their lives. Dad had his pension, and Mom had inherited a hefty sum from Grandma years ago. The truth was, their struggles were Callie's reckless spending, her endless shopping sprees, and their insistence on funding her every whim. I had built my business from nothing. I had worked late nights, skipped vacations, poured my soul into every deal, every investment. They never once asked how I was doing. Only now that they knew, did they care. Callie's smirk was barely concealed behind her feigned outrage. "And you weren't even going to tell us?" I exhaled sharply. "I didn't think I needed to. My success isn't your paycheck." The words landed like a slap. Eleanor gasped, clutching at her pearl necklace. "You ungrateful child?" Gregory's jaw tightened. "Family takes care of each other, Sarah." The guilt tripping, the manipulation. It was all so predictable, so painfully rehearsed. If you really loved us, my mother added, voice trembling for dramatic effect, you would share your success with your family. Something in me snapped. I felt the heat rise to my face, my pulse pounding in my ears. All these years, being ignored, being the afterthought, the backup plan while Callie basked in their attention. And now that I was worth something, they suddenly remembered I existed. I clenched my jaw, biting back the retort burning on my tongue. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of an outburst. Not yet. Callie was watching me closely, waiting for me to cave. Not this time. I pushed back my chair, standing slowly. Excuse me. And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving behind the shocked silence, the whispers, the murmurs. I wasn't going to let them break me. Not yet. But this was far from over. I barely made it to the hallway before I heard footsteps behind me. Sarah, sweetheart. My mother's voice was suddenly gentle, too soft, too calculated. Don't walk away like this. I exhaled slowly, pressing my fingers to my temples before turning around. Eleanor stood there, hands clasped together like a grieving widow, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Callie hovered behind her, arms crossed, biting her lip, playing the part of the wounded sister. My father lingered near the dining table, swirling the last of his bourbon in his glass, his face unreadable. The rest of the family was still whispering in the living room, exchanging scandalized glances, but they were pretending not to listen. We need to talk, Eleanor continued, stepping closer. Let's not do this in front of everyone. I clenched my jaw. I already knew where this was going. She led me into the sitting room, a space that was meant to be for guests, but was rarely used. Callie and Gregory followed, closing the door behind them. The moment we were all inside, the facade cracked. Eleanor sighed dramatically, sinking onto the couch. Sarah, darling, we're not asking for all your money. Just a little something, a family support fund. I scoffed. A what? Gregory cleared his throat, trying to sound reasonable. You know, something fair. Maybe set aside a few million so we can all feel secure. My stomach twisted. They actually believed this was a rational request. You mean so Callie can keep shopping and taking luxury vacations? I snapped, crossing my arms. Callie gasped, her expression flickering between shock and insult. Wow, Sarah, I didn't know you thought so little of me. I let out a bitter laugh. I know you, Callie. Eleanor's face fell, her disappointment carefully rehearsed. This isn't about Callie, it's about family, about us supporting each other. I stared at her, searching for any sign of sincerity. Funny. You never seemed too worried about supporting me when I was struggling. She flinched, but recovered quickly, shaking her head. That's not fair. We always did what we could. Really? Where were you when I was working 3 jobs in college? When I had to take out loans just to survive? Where were you then? Eleanor opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Gregory sighed, rubbing his temples. We're not trying to start a fight here, but think about it, Sarah. You have $15 million. You could change our lives overnight. Callie nodded eagerly. Exactly! You wouldn't even miss it. I felt my nails dig into my palm. And if I say no? Silence. Eleanor blinked, as if she hadn't considered that possibility. Gregory's grip on his glass tightened. Callie tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. Finally, my mother let out a long breath. We just don't understand why you'd want to hoard all of that money when your family, your blood, could use some help. I let out a humorless laugh. Oh, so now we're talking about blood. Where was that blood when I was invisible for the last 15 years? Eleanor's lips pressed into a thin line. You're being cruel. No, Mom. I'm being honest. The tension in the room was suffocating, but I didn't back down. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. They never cared about my success until they realized it could benefit them. Gregory set his glass down with a thud. You need to think about this. I already have. I turned toward the door. And my answer is no. Eleanor made a wounded noise. Sarah! I walked out, my heart hammering. I expected them to follow me, to drag this out, but they didn't. They just sat there, stunned, as if they truly couldn't believe I was refusing them. Later that night, as I stood in the kitchen refilling my glass of wine, Callie appeared at my side. She sighed, leaning against the counter like we were just two sisters catching up. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I arched an eyebrow. For what exactly? She hesitated, chewing on her lip. For how things went down earlier. I got caught up in the moment. I was jealous. I studied her carefully. Her voice was soft, her eyes a little glassy, just enough to appear genuine. I don't want us to fight, she continued. You're my big sister. I want to fix things. I almost believed her. Then she pulled out her phone. If you really want to prove you don't hate me, she said lightly, just help me out a little. My stomach dropped. She turned the screen toward me, a banking app, a joint account ready for a transfer. Not a lot, just something to get me back on my feet. There it was. The mask slipping, the performance ending. I set my wine glass down. No. Her face twisted in frustration. Oh, come on, Sarah. You owe me. I let out a slow breath. Owe you for what, exactly? She scoffed, rolling her eyes. For everything. Do you even know how hard it was for me growing up in your shadow, always being compared to you? I blinked. Are you actually serious right now? Callie's crocodile tears vanished in an instant. You are so selfish. I laughed, an actual full-bodied laugh. Wow, you really had me there for a second. Her jaw clenched. Good night, Callie. I turned my back to her, grabbing my purse. She let out an irritated noise, then stomped out of the kitchen, her heels clicking angrily against the tile. But I knew she wasn't done yet. I stayed in the kitchen for a few more moments, listening to the sound of Callie's angry footsteps retreating down the hall. I exhaled, pressing my fingers to my temples. The night was dragging, each passing hour making this house feel less like home and more like a battlefield. The air smelled of cinnamon and pine, but it did nothing to ease the knot tightening in my stomach. Something was wrong, more than just their greed, more than the blatant manipulation. They weren't just reacting tonight, this was planned. I walked back into the living room, where the remnants of the Christmas gathering were still scattered. Half-empty glasses of wine, wrapping paper torn open in a flurry of greed, the flickering glow of Christmas lights casting long, eerie shadows against the walls. I sank into the armchair near the fireplace, rubbing my temples. The weight of their accusations still clung to me. You let us struggle. If you really loved us, you would share. We are your family. I had spent years convincing myself that I had simply outgrown my family, that our distance was a natural result of adulthood. But tonight had proven something darker. They had never truly cared about me, only what I could give them. And yet, something still didn't sit right. Why had my parents switched so quickly from outrage to negotiation? They should have been furious, humiliated, insulted that I hadn't told them about my wealth. Instead, they had pivoted into damage control like seasoned politicians. I lifted my glass of wine to my lips, but froze. From the kitchen, hushed voices drifted into the living room. I set my glass down and strained to listen. My mother, speaking softly, but with a sharpness that made my stomach turn. We'll have to move quickly. A pause. A second voice, my father. His tone was low, controlled. She's being difficult. You should have waited, Eleanor. Another pause. She wasn't supposed to find out this way, but it doesn't change anything. Then I heard the words that made my breath catch. The lawyer is ready. A cold chill ran down my spine. Financial guardianship. Trust fund. Callie will handle the signatures. My hands curled into fists. I stood, moving toward the kitchen. I knew they would hear me if I got too close, but I had heard enough. This wasn't just guilt-tripping anymore. This was a planned financial takeover. I moved carefully through the hallway toward my mother's study. The door was slightly ajar, and the lamp inside cast a dim golden glow onto the carpet. I stepped inside, scanning the room. And then I saw it. A stack of papers, neatly arranged on her desk. My name was on them. I swallowed hard, stepping closer. The words at the top of the page made my stomach lurch. Vaughn Family Trust Agreement. I skimmed through the legal jargon, my pulse pounding. Trust managers. Eleanor Vaughn, Callie Vaughn. Beneficiary, Sarah Vaughn. I flipped through the next page, my hands trembling. At the bottom, next to a space labeled Signature, there was a neatly drawn line. I had never seen this document before, but they were planning for me to sign it. And if I didn't? My stomach twisted. They were going to find a way to take control of my assets, with or without my consent. The words from the kitchen rang in my ears. The lawyer is ready. I gritted my teeth, rage bubbling under my skin. They weren't just asking me to share. They were trying to take everything. A movement at the door made me spin around. Gregory stood there, frozen. His eyes flickered to the papers in my hand, and in that split second, I saw it. The guilt. The realization that I had caught them too soon. I held up the papers, my voice dangerously calm. What? The hell is this? He didn't answer at first, just let out a long sigh, rubbing his temples like I was the problem. It's for the best, sweetheart, he finally said, stepping inside. You don't understand what's good for you. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. The best? For who? Gregory closed the door behind him. You're young. You don't know how unpredictable money can be. I narrowed my eyes. That's interesting, because I built my entire career on knowing exactly how to manage it. His jaw tightened, but before he could respond, a soft click sounded behind him. Eleanor stepped into the room, her expression unreadable. You weren't supposed to see that yet. I stared at her, searching for some sign that this was a mistake, that she had simply made a poor choice, that she wasn't actively conspiring against me. But there was nothing. No remorse. No regret. Just calculation. I swallowed down the lump rising in my throat. How long have you been planning this? Eleanor's expression didn't waver. This isn't about taking from you, Sarah. It's about protecting you. I clenched my jaw. Right. Because nothing says protection like secretly trying to steal legal control over my assets. Eleanor sighed, tilting her head slightly. You're too emotional about this, I laughed. Too emotional? Callie's voice drifted from the hallway. She's always been paranoid. It's exhausting. I turned sharply to see her standing just outside the door, arms crossed, looking thoroughly unimpressed. She smirked. Honestly, Sarah, why are you making this such a big deal? It's not like we were going to leave you with nothing. I gripped the papers tighter, my hands shaking. There was no way out of this conversation that wouldn't turn into a full-blown war. So I made a decision. I walked past Gregory, past Eleanor, past Callie. I pushed open the study door and stepped out into the hallway. Callie laughed behind me. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I stopped in my tracks, turned slightly. Dramatic? I met her gaze, my own calm and steady. This is the last time you try to steal from me. And with that, I left them standing there, my mind already forming the next move. If they wanted a fight, I was ready to give them one. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the signatures on that trust agreement, the carefully orchestrated betrayal hiding beneath my mother's saccharine voice, Callie's smug little smirk when she thought she had won. But this wasn't over. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating aggressively on my nightstand. I groaned, rolling over, my head pounding from the exhaustion of the night before. The screen was filled with missed calls, dozens of them, messages, voicemails, notifications piling up like a digital avalanche. Something was wrong. I sat up, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. The pit in my stomach grew as I swiped through my notifications. Imogen Clark, 17 missed calls, Imogen Clark. Incoming call. I barely had time to answer before her panicked voice hit me. You need to check Callie's Instagram. Now! My stomach dropped. What did she do? I asked, already pulling up the app, dreading the answer. Imogen hesitated. It's bad, Sarah. She really went for it. I clicked on Callie's profile, and there it was. A long, teary-eyed post, the kind designed to rake in as much sympathy as possible. I never wanted to do this, but I can't stay silent anymore. My heart is broken. My own sister, my own blood, has abandoned us in our time of need. We never asked for millions, never demanded anything. We only wanted love and support. But money changes people. I just wish my sister could remember where she came from. My breath hitched. Oh, she was good. The post had already racked up thousands of likes, comments flooding in faster than I could scroll. She sounds selfish AF. If I had millions, my family wouldn't have to ask. Shame on her. Callie, stay strong, girl. You don't need toxic people in your life, even if they're family. Damn, some people get rich and forget who helped them get there. My fingers tightened around the phone as I scrolled through the replies. Then I saw the worst part. Eleanor Vaughn, my own mother, had left a comment. We never asked for much, just a little love and support. It breaks my heart that my own daughter would turn her back on us. I felt the betrayal like a slap. Not just Callie, Mom too. It wasn't enough to ambush me in person, to steal my documents and forge legal agreements. Now they wanted the world to turn against me too. And it was working. By noon, it was everywhere. Callie had tagged influencers, gossip accounts, even a few journalists. The greedy millionaire sister was trending. I scrolled through article after article, each more sensationalized than the last. Meet Sarah Vaughn, the self-made millionaire who refuses to support her struggling family. Exposed. How one woman abandoned her family after making millions. Callie Vaughn speaks out. I just want my sister back. I threw my phone onto the counter, my pulse hammering in my ears. This wasn't just a petty social media fight anymore. This was war. I paced my condo, rage simmering beneath my skin. They had dragged me through the dirt for money, turned me into a villain overnight. My business emails were flooded with clients asking for clarification. A few had already pulled out of deals. The damage wasn't just personal, it was professional. My phone buzzed again. Imogen. Tell me you're not ignoring this, she said the second I picked up. I'm aware. My voice was tight. Then do something, she snapped. Silence is basically an admission of guilt. You need to get ahead of this before it spirals. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. I don't do online fights, Immy. Well, congratulations, she shot back. You're in one. I exhaled slowly. And what do you suggest? Control the narrative. Tell your side. Make a statement. I stared out the window, the Chicago skyline stretching before me. I didn't want to do this, but I knew she was right. I sat at my desk, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then I started typing. I have always valued my privacy, but in light of the misinformation being spread, I feel the need to address this personally. I love my family, but the situation is far more complicated than what has been presented online. I have never abandoned them, nor have I refused to support them. The truth, however, is something I am not yet ready to fully discuss. But know this, I will not be bullied, guilt-tripped, or publicly shamed into decisions that impact my future. Family is important, but so are boundaries. I hesitated for only a second before hitting post. It took minutes before the backlash hit. Wow, what a PR move. Fake rich people are all the same. Boundaries is just a fancy way of saying you don't want to share, huh? Your family raised you, they deserve a cut. Period. But there were also voices of reason. She doesn't owe them a damn thing. It's always the struggling family members who feel entitled to someone else's hard work. Sarah doesn't have to set herself on fire to keep them warm. The tide wasn't fully turning, but it wasn't drowning me anymore either. Then my phone rang. I already knew who it was before I even looked at the screen. Mom. I took a slow breath. The war wasn't just online anymore. It was about to get personal. I stared at the screen, my mother's name flashing like a warning. The last time I'd let them corner me, I walked away, barely keeping my sanity intact. This time, I wasn't in the mood to play their game. I let the call go to voicemail. Seconds later, another call. Then a text. Mom. We need to talk, Sarah. Don't shut us out. Mom. I know you saw Callie's post. This is getting out of hand. Call me. Mom. It doesn't have to be this way. I clenched my jaw and turned my phone off. It was already this way, and they were the ones who made it so. A few days passed. The online mess hadn't fully died down, but I'd managed to control some of the damage. My clients weren't thrilled with the attention, but they were reassured by my statement. Still, the tension hadn't left me. I felt it lingering like a shadow, waiting for the next move. That move came Thursday morning, at my office. I was sitting in my glass-walled corner office downtown, skimming through emails, when Imogen burst in. She didn't knock. That alone told me something was wrong. They're here, she said out of breath. I frowned. Who? She didn't need to answer. I already knew. I stood, straightening my blazer. Did they have an appointment? Imogen's lips pressed into a thin line. They said they did. Of course they did. I stepped out of my office and into the reception area, where Gregory, Eleanor, and Callie were sitting as if this was a friendly drop-in. Callie was scrolling through her phone, legs crossed, looking utterly unbothered. My father was casually flipping through a magazine, as if he wasn't plotting ways to control my life. My mother. She was sitting there with an expression carefully crafted for maximum pity. She looked up, a soft, motherly smile in place. Sierra, sweetheart. I exhaled slowly. What are you doing here? Gregory stood, adjusting his suit jacket. We just want to talk, no pressure. I folded my arms. That's funny, because the last time you wanted to talk, you were trying to steal my assets. Callie clicked her tongue. God, Sierra, are you ever going to let that go? I turned my glare on her. No. Eleanor sighed, as if I was exhausting her. Let's not do this here. Let's go somewhere private. I laughed, low and humorless. Not a chance. Gregory motioned to my office. Then at least hear us out. That's all we ask. I should have told them to leave right then and there, but I needed to hear what they were planning. So I turned to Imogen. Give us 10 minutes. If they're not gone by then, call security. Callie snorted. Oh, come on, Sarah. You're not really gonna act like we're trespassers. I met her eyes, deadpan. You are trespassers. And with that, I walked into my office, fully aware that I was inviting a pack of wolves into my den. Eleanor sat first, smoothing her dress, eyes darting around like she was mentally cataloging everything I owned. Callie made herself at home, lounging in the chair like she belonged there. Gregory, as always, played the role of the reasonable one. He was the first to speak. You've been through a lot this week, he said, voice even. We just want to help. I leaned back, unimpressed. That's new. Since when have you ever wanted to help me? Eleanor gave me a wounded look. Sierra, don't be like this. I ignored her and turned to Gregory. Say what you came to say. He nodded and reached into his briefcase, sliding a document across the desk. I didn't pick it up. What is this? I asked. Eleanor smiled, too sweet. Just something to ease your burden. I finally glanced down. Financial Management Assistance Agreement. I laughed, sharp and cold. You want me to sign over my company? Gregory's expression didn't change. Of course not. Callie smirked. We just want to help manage things, as a family. I exhaled through my nose, looking at the document again. They had seriously put together a whole legal agreement to take control of my finances, after everything. It wasn't just about the money anymore. They wanted power. I picked up the document, flipping through the pages, before pushing it back across the desk. Get out! Eleanor stiffened. Sierra, don't be hasty. This is what's best for everyone. For you, I corrected. This is what's best for you. Gregory sighed like I was a child throwing a tantrum. You think you're untouchable, don't you? That got my attention. I tilted my head. Come again? Callie leaned forward, resting her elbows on my desk. If you're not with us, you're against us. I clenched my jaw. I don't negotiate with scammers. Callie's eyes darkened. Careful, Sarah. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. Get out, now. Eleanor's expression shifted instantly. The warmth drained from her eyes, replaced with something sharp, cold. She stood, smoothing her dress, then met my gaze with a slow smile. You're making a big mistake, Sarah. Gregory nodded in agreement. We're still family, don't forget that. Callie didn't say a word, just smirked. Like she already knew something I didn't. I watched them walk out, my pulse pounding. I had seen that look before. It meant trouble was coming. And this time, I wasn't backing down. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces. My mother's calculated pity, Gregory's smug condescension, Callie's smirk, the look she always gave me when she thought she'd won. But this time, she hadn't won. I wouldn't let her. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating aggressively on the nightstand. Imogen Clark, 5 missed calls. Imogen Clark, incoming call, I answered groggily. Immy? Her voice was sharp, urgent. Check your bank account. I sat up fast, my pulse spiking. What? Just do it. I threw the blankets off and grabbed my laptop from the desk, fingers shaking as I logged in. And then I saw it. $250,000. Gone. I sucked in a breath. My stomach twisted violently. Callie. There was no other explanation. I scrolled through the transaction details. The money had been transferred to a new account under my name. Except, I hadn't opened any new accounts. My heart pounded. She had forged my authorization. This wasn't manipulation. This wasn't gaslighting. This was theft. I was out of my condo within 15 minutes, moving on autopilot as I drove through the city. I barely registered the lights flashing past, barely felt the steering wheel beneath my fingers. My entire body was buzzing with fury, cold and sharp. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about power, about control, and I had let them have it for far too long. I slammed my car into park outside an office building, barely stopping before I stalked inside. A receptionist looked up, startled. Ms. Vaughn? I need to see Dominic Hale, I said tightly. Dominic Hale was not the kind of man you called, unless you were serious about burning bridges. He was my former mentor, an old-school power player, someone who had built his name on ruining people who thought they were untouchable. And today? I was handing him my family on a silver platter. He leaned back in his chair, studying me with a slow, amused smile. Well, well, if it isn't my favorite former protege. I dropped into the chair opposite him, sliding the bank statements across the desk. I need to take my family down. Dominic's smile widened slightly. He picked up the papers, scanning them, then whistled. That's bold, even for them. Callie forged my signature, I said flatly. She stole from me. His eyebrows lifted slightly. And let me guess, this isn't the worst of it? I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. It's not. I pulled out another stack of documents, the ones I had found in my mother's study, the preliminary paperwork she had filed, the paperwork that would allow her to legally claim that I was mentally unfit to manage my own finances. Dominic's expression shifted. The amusement vanished, replaced by something far sharper. He read the pages carefully. When he finished, he placed them down and met my gaze. You know what this means, don't you? He said quietly. I nodded once. They weren't just trying to guilt me into giving them money. They were trying to take everything. Dominic tapped the papers. They planned this for months, maybe longer. I swallowed hard. I shouldn't have been surprised, but somehow I still was. Dominic leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. So, do you want to play nice? His lips curled slightly. Or do you want to destroy them? I met his eyes, my pulse steady. I want them to regret ever thinking they could control me. Dominic grinned. Now that's what I like to hear. I barely had time to breathe. The rage from my meeting with Dominic was still fresh, still simmering beneath my skin like a fire I couldn't put out. I had spent the night sifting through legal documents, tracing every fraudulent move my family had made, my hands shaking with exhaustion and fury. But when my phone rang the next morning, I realized I had underestimated them. Ms. Vaughn, this is James Larkin from First National Bank. We need to discuss the six-figure loan you recently took out. I froze. What loan? There was a brief hesitation. The $350,000 business loan secured under your name and credit. The first payment is due in 30 days. I shot up from my chair, knocking over my coffee. I never took out a loan. Silence. Ms. Vaughn, Larkin finally said, voice cautious. The paperwork is signed and processed. We have your signature on file. I already knew what I would find before I even opened the email. And there it was. A perfect forgery of my name. The air left my lungs. Callie. She had used my company's credibility to take out a massive loan, likely betting that I wouldn't notice, or that I wouldn't dare report her. She had taken our feud to another level. I gripped my phone tighter. I need every single document you have on this loan. Every form. Every signature. Larkin cleared his throat. We'd be happy to provide you with that. But if there's an issue with this transaction, I'd advise you to resolve it quickly. Non-payment on this loan will have severe consequences for your credit and I'll resolve it. My voice was like steel. I hung up. This wasn't just fraud. This was war. By the time I reached my office, Imogen was already on high alert. She met me at the door, clutching her tablet, her eyes wide. You know, I nodded sharply. How long have you known? I found out this morning. I was about to call you when the bank did. She glanced at her screen. She was smart about it. She used her business degree for something, I guess. She structured the loan under your corporate entity, leveraging its assets to make it look like a perfectly normal transaction. I clenched my jaw. Callie had always been a leech, but this? This was another level of insanity. Imogen's voice dropped. Sarah, if you don't handle this fast, it could wreck your credit, your business reputation. I inhaled slowly, forcing my hands to unclench. She thinks she's untouchable. She's banking on you not turning her in. I met Imogen's gaze. She bet wrong. The knock on my door came at exactly the wrong time. I had just finished speaking with Dominic, preparing the fraud charges, when the sharp bang, bang, bang echoed through my condo. I already had a bad feeling. I opened the door. A man in a dark suit stood there, holding a thick envelope. Debt collector. Ms. Vaughn? I exhaled slowly. What can I do for you? He gave me a tight smile. We're here to discuss payment options before legal action is pursued. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't panic the way Callie had probably assumed I would. Instead, I smiled, cold, dangerous. Oh, you'll get your money. The man hesitated. But not from me. I pulled out my phone and dialed Dominic. File the fraud charges. My tires screeched against the pavement as I pulled up to my parents' house. I wasn't waiting this time. I wasn't giving them another second to plot, to twist things, to try and manipulate their way out. I stormed through the front door, documents in hand. Eleanor and Gregory were in the kitchen, frozen mid-conversation. And then there was Callie. She was curled up on the couch, sipping a ridiculously overpriced latte, scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. Until she saw me. Her face went pale. I threw the bank statements onto the coffee table. What did you do, Callie? She blinked. Sarah, what the hell? I cut her off. Don't play dumb. You took out a $350,000 loan under my name. You forged my signature. Her mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. Eleanor stood abruptly. Sarah, I think you're overreacting. I turned to her, eyes blazing. Overreacting? I let out a sharp laugh. Your daughter committed felony fraud and I'm overreacting? Callie finally found her voice. Okay, you need to calm down. I whirled on her. I need to calm down. You stole from me, Callie. She scoffed, but her hands were trembling now. I was going to pay it back. I laughed. Loud, sharp, cutting. With what? Your influencer sponsorships? Your $10 Target hauls that you pretend are Chanel? Her nostrils flared. You don't understand how hard things have been for me. I stared at her, utterly disgusted. You don't understand how hard things have been for you? I took a slow, measured step forward. You stole from your own sister. You put my business at risk. You forged legal documents. Callie's breath hitched. I didn't think you'd press charges. I leaned in, my voice ice cold. Well, guess what, Callie? I am. Her face crumbled. Sarah, please. Eleanor stepped forward, voice dripping with desperation. She's your sister. Family forgives. I turned to her, my patience completely gone. Funny. That's what you said when you tried to steal control of my assets. When you tried to have me declared unfit. Eleanor's face twitched. Sarah! I cut her off. Enough. I'm done. You have 1 hour to get Callie a lawyer, because I'm pressing charges. And this time? I met Callie's tear-streaked gaze. You don't get to cry your way out of this. A month had passed. A month since I stood in that courtroom and watched the legal system do what my parents never had. Hold Callie accountable. She took a plea deal, avoided jail. But her life? The one she had carefully constructed with lies and manipulation? It crumbled. She lost her influencer brand deals. Her credit was in ruins. And, perhaps most poetic of all, the bank seized her car. For the first time in years, I could breathe. No more Sunday dinners filled with passive-aggressive remarks. No more gaslighting. No more stolen money. No more watching my family twist reality to suit their needs. I was finally free. I was sitting in my new office, high above Chicago, scanning through contracts, when Imogen strolled in, holding 2 lattes. She placed one on my desk. Decaf. Because I know you haven't been sleeping. I smirked, taking a sip. You're terrifyingly observant. She shrugged. It's why you pay me. Then she leaned against my desk, arms crossed. So, how does it feel? Winning? I thought about it for a second. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like relief. It feels peaceful, I admitted. Imogen smiled knowingly. About damn time. I set my cup down, rolling my shoulders. All right, what's next? She grinned. Dominic's waiting in the conference room, and before you ask, yes, he brought whiskey. I laughed. For the first time in years, I actually laughed. I was halfway through reviewing a new partnership agreement when my phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. Please meet me. I need to talk. I stared at the message, something cold curling in my stomach. I didn't need to ask who it was. I should have ignored it. But some small masochistic part of me wanted to see. So I went. The cafe was almost empty when I walked in. I spotted Callie immediately. She wasn't wearing designer. No perfect makeup, no expensive jewelry. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, her face bare, shadows under her eyes. She looked human. I slid into the seat across from her, keeping my expression neutral. You wanted to talk. She flinched at my tone. Sarah, She inhaled sharply, rubbing her hands together, like she was trying to hold herself together. I lost everything. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I was stupid. I know that now. I said nothing. She looked up at me, her eyes wet, filled with something close to real regret. I don't know how to fix this. I tilted my head. Fix what? She swallowed. Us. There was a time when hearing that would have cracked something inside me. But now I felt nothing. Not hate, not anger, not even pity, just detachment. Callie reached across the table, her fingers barely brushing mine. Please, Sarah. I pulled away gently. Some things can't be fixed, Callie. Tears slipped down her face. I don't have anyone else. I exhaled slowly, then stood. I pulled a 20 from my wallet, dropping it on the table, enough to cover her coffee. That's not my problem anymore. Then I walked away. And this time, I didn't look back. That night, I sat in my apartment, sipping wine, staring out at the city. My phone buzzed. Dominic, dinner tomorrow? I smiled. For once, I was excited about the future. As I sit here now, looking back at everything I've been through, I realize one thing. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. It's about boundaries. For years, I believed that if I gave enough, if I forgave enough, if I sacrificed enough, my family would love me the way I deserved. But here's the truth. Some people only love you when you're easy to control. It took losing everything and rebuilding from scratch to understand that I never owed them my success, my money, or my loyalty. I owed myself the chance to live without their weight dragging me down. And maybe you're watching this right now, feeling the same way. Maybe you have family members who manipulate, who guilt you into believing their problems are yours to fix. But let me tell you this. You do not have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Your success, it's yours. Your peace, it's yours. Your happiness, it belongs to you, not to the people who only show up when they want something. So tell me, have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved for the sake of your own sanity? Let me know in the comments. Drop a 1 if this story resonated with you, or tell me where you're watching from. And if you want more real, raw stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next, because sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is finally let go. I'm Elle, and let me tell you, this past Thanksgiving was one I'll never forget. My family made up a lie to keep me from coming to dinner, but I was the only one left out. They sat around the table, laughing, celebrating, acting like I didn't exist. Why? Because I'm just an AC tech. But here's the kicker. I was the one paying for my sister's college tuition. The same sister who was too ashamed to acknowledge me. The same family who happily took my money, but didn't want me at their table. So I made a decision. A decision that would change everything. The buzzing neon sign of my HVAC shop flickered in the twilight as I locked up for the night. The cold Seattle air bit through my jacket, but there was a warmth in my chest. Thanksgiving was only a few days away, and for once, I wouldn't have to worry about work orders or emergency repairs. I had set everything in place, scheduled jobs, prepared bonuses for my crew, and even picked out a nice bottle of wine to bring to dinner. As I climbed into my truck, my phone rang. My mother's name lit up the screen. I smiled, expecting her usual pre-holiday call about which pie I should bring, pecan or pumpkin. But when I picked up, the tone in her voice immediately sent a chill down my spine. Elle, honey. I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving, she said. Something was off. Mom always had a certain sharpness in her voice, a clipped efficiency. But now she sounded hesitant, as if she were about to say something I wouldn't like. Sure, what's up? I replied, shifting the truck into drive. There was a pause, just long enough to make my stomach tighten. We think it would be best if you skip dinner this year. I nearly swerved into the next lane. Wait, what? My grip on the wheel tightened. What do you mean, skip dinner? We always do Thanksgiving together. Mom let out a soft sigh, the kind she used when she was about to feed me a line of well-rehearsed nonsense. Well, it's just that this year we're keeping things a little more formal. Serafina's boyfriend is bringing his parents, and we thought it might be better if it was just close family. I scoffed, my chest tightening. I am close family, Mom. Of course you are, sweetheart, she said quickly, her voice dripping with forced sincerity. It's just, you know how these professional families can be. It's important for Serafina to make a good impression. And there it was. The underlying message hit me like a gut punch. My job, my life, wasn't up to their standards. So what, Mom? Because I don't wear a suit and tie, I'm not good enough to sit at the table? My voice rose, anger bubbling beneath my skin. Elle, don't make this about you. I let out a humorless laugh. Oh, I see. So it's not about me. It's just about making sure Serafina isn't embarrassed by her lowly sister, right? She didn't respond. That silence was enough. I can't believe this, I muttered. Elle, honey, it's just one dinner. We'll make it up to you. Maybe a family brunch next weekend? She offered, as if that would soften the blow. I hung up. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, my breathing shallow. One dinner. One dinner after years of helping Serafina, of paying for her tuition, of making sure she never had to worry about a damn thing. And now, I wasn't good enough to be in the same room as her boyfriend's family? As I sat there in the stillness of my truck, my phone vibrated again. A text from my cousin, Genevieve. I need to tell you something. It's about Thanksgiving. I hesitated before opening the message. I overheard Mom and Serafina talking the other day. Serafina told her she didn't want you there because she was afraid it would make her look bad in front of Dorian's parents. She said, and I quote, I don't want them to think we come from a working-class background. I read the message twice, my stomach sinking. My own sister, the same one whose textbooks, tuition, and rent I had been covering for years, was ashamed of me, ashamed of the work I did, ashamed of the life I built with my own hands. I wanted to throw my phone against the dashboard, but I just sat there, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The way she never invited me to her college events, the way she changed the subject when her friends asked what I did for a living, the way she never introduced me to her boyfriend, even though they had been together for nearly a year. I had ignored it, convinced myself I was being paranoid. But this was undeniable. Thanksgiving Day arrived, and for the first time in my life, I spent it alone. I tried to distract myself, went for a long drive, stopped at a diner for coffee, even called a few friends. But nothing dulled the ache in my chest. That evening, against my better judgment, I checked social media. There they were, smiling family photos, the perfectly set dinner table, Serafina in a sleek dress, beaming next to Dorian, his parents looking equally polished. And I wasn't anywhere in sight. That was the moment something in me shifted. If I wasn't good enough to sit at their table, then my money wasn't good enough to pay for Serafina's tuition. So, I made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. It wasn't relief exactly, more like clarity. The kind that only comes when you finally stop making excuses for people who don't deserve them. I made my coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out my laptop. Logging into the university's payment portal had become second nature to me over the years. I knew the password to Serafina's account better than I knew my own streaming login. Due date, 2 weeks. Balance, $21,500. I stared at the number, my fingers hovering over the trackpad. I had covered every single semester since she started law school, never once hesitating. But this time, my cursor moved to Remove Payment Method. A small pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to remove this account as a payer? This action cannot be undone. I clicked yes without a second thought. The second my laptop snapped shut, my phone buzzed on the table. My mother's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. By the fourth call, I sighed and picked up, already bracing myself. Elle. Mom's voice was sharp, exasperated, like she had already been in mid-argument before I even answered. What are you doing? I took a slow sip of my coffee. Good morning to you too, Mom. Don't play games with me, she snapped. Serafina just called, hysterical, saying you cut off her tuition payment. Tell me that's not true. Oh, it's true, I said flatly. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Ella, how could you be so cruel? Cruel, I laughed, a short, humorless sound. That's an interesting choice of words. considering she's the one who got me disinvited from Thanksgiving because she was embarrassed by me. She was just trying to make a good impression on Dorian's family, Mom argued, her tone shifting into that saccharine, guilt-tripping mode she always used when she wanted something from me. You know how these things work. She's young. She doesn't think things through. She's 24, Mom. She's old enough to know exactly what she's doing. Another pause. Then the inevitable. You promised you'd support her through school, Elle. No, I corrected, my grip tightening on my mug. I promised to help my sister, not someone who treats me like I'm disposable. She didn't mean it that way. She meant it exactly that way. Mom let out a frustrated sigh. You're overreacting. Family makes sacrifices for each other. That's just what we do. I swallowed back a bitter laugh. Funny how family only applies when I'm the one giving. When it's my turn to expect a little basic respect, suddenly I'm asking for too much. She needs this, Elle. So did I. Mom fell silent. For once, she didn't have an immediate comeback. No rehearsed lines about what's best for the family or how Serafina's future depended on me. I let the silence stretch before I spoke again, voice steady. I'm done. Elle? Number. I mean it. I've spent years paying for her education, covering every expense, making sure she never had to worry about a damn thing. And the one time I needed her to just acknowledge me, she chose to erase me instead. Mom exhaled, exasperated. You're being so dramatic. I think we're done here, I said, ignoring the sharp sting in my chest. Elle, wait. I hung up. For a long moment, I just sat there, my pulse hammering against my ribs. I had done it. I had actually done it. I should have felt guilty. Maybe a part of me did, but it was so small, so buried under years of resentment that I barely noticed it. Instead, I felt something else. Something dangerously close to satisfaction. I sat in the dim light of my living room, the hum of the city outside barely reaching through the thick glass windows. The half-empty cup of coffee on the table had long since gone cold, but I didn't move. My mind was too busy unraveling years of memories, each one a piece of a puzzle I had refused to see clearly until now. Serafina had been ashamed of me for a long time. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. The signs had always been there. I remembered last Christmas when she threw a big party for her law school friends. I had found out about it only through a stray Instagram post, her smiling face front and center, with a caption about celebrating success with the best people. I hadn't been invited. When I confronted her, she gave me some rushed excuse about how it was just a small thing and not a big deal. I let it slide. Then there was the time I visited her on campus. I had been in the area for a job and figured I'd stop by, take her out to dinner. When she saw me walking toward her dorm, her eyes darted around like she was afraid someone would see me. She barely let me inside, rushing through small talk before making up some excuse about a study group she had to get to. And the introductions. God, the introductions. Whenever I ran into her friends, she never said, "This is my sister Elle." It was always just, "Oh, this is family." Like my actual identity was something best left vague. I had told myself it wasn't intentional, that she was just distracted, busy, young. But it wasn't that. She had been embarrassed by me all along. The realization burned through me, a slow and seething kind of anger that wasn't just about her, but about me, too. For years, I had let this happen. I had let her take from me, let her diminish me, let her get away with things because I thought family meant something. But family shouldn't be conditional, and love shouldn't come with fine print. I turned to my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. It was almost muscle memory by now, logging into the university's payment portal, checking the due dates, making sure everything was squared away. But this time, the screen felt different. Next semester's tuition, $21,500. Due in 2 weeks. I stared at the number, my stomach twisting. How many late nights had I worked to make sure that money was there? How many vacations had I skipped? How many times had I put her needs before my own? And for what? So she could pretend I didn't exist when it was inconvenient? Not this time. I grabbed my phone and dialed the university's financial office. A polite voice picked up after 2 rings. "How can I assist you today?" "I need to remove myself as the payer on an account," I said, my voice steady. There was a pause. "Are you sure? This will impact the student's enrollment status." I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. I had spent years being sure of things that didn't deserve my certainty. But this, I'm sure. The process took less than 5 minutes. A few verification questions, a final confirmation, and just like that, it was done. I set my phone down and exhaled, waiting for guilt to creep in. It didn't. Instead, all I felt was a strange, unfamiliar kind of relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying someone else's burden. But I also knew this was just the beginning. And when Serafina found out, she was going to lose her mind. The first call came less than 24 hours later. I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at the screen, already knowing who it was before I even saw her name. Serafina. I let it ring. It rang again. And again. Then a 4th time. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around the mug. I wasn't ready for this conversation. Actually, no, I just didn't owe her this conversation. The buzzing stopped and a voicemail notification popped up. Against my better judgment, I pressed play. "Elle, what the hell? I just got an email from the university saying my tuition payment was declined. This has to be a mistake. Call me back." Her voice was shrill, panicked. I set my phone down, taking another sip of coffee. Let her stew in it. Another call, then another, then a text. "Elle, if you don't fix this, I won't be able to enroll next semester. You can't just do this to me." I typed out a response. Not my problem. But before I hit send, I stopped. What was the point? She would never understand. No text from me was going to make her suddenly see the years of effort I had put into making her life easier. She only saw what she lost, not what she had been given. I deleted the message and put my phone on silent, because I already knew what was coming next. Serafina wasn't the kind of person who accepted consequences quietly. When she realized I wasn't responding, she turned to the next best thing. Dorian. She showed up at his apartment, hair a mess, eyes wide with panic. He had barely opened the door before she was pushing past him, pacing back and forth across his living room. "I can't believe this," she breathed, her hands gripping her temples. "Elle cut me off, just like that. No warning, no explanation, nothing." Dorian frowned, shutting the door behind her. "Wait, Elle? Your sister Elle?" "Yes," she snapped. "I just got the email. My tuition payment didn't go through. I tried calling her, but she won't answer me." Dorian sat down on the couch, his confusion evident. "Hold on, I thought your parents were paying for school?" Serafina froze. For the first time in years, she didn't have a rehearsed excuse ready. She never told him Elle was the one paying. "Well, I mean, they help. But Elle was covering most of it," she muttered, suddenly avoiding his gaze. Dorian's brow furrowed. "Most of it? How much are we talking?" She let out a nervous laugh. "I don't know, a few payments here and there?" "Serafina." His voice was sharp now. "How much?" She swallowed. "All of it." His expression darkened. "So, let me get this straight. Your sister has been paying for your college this entire time, and you let me believe your parents were covering it?" She waved a hand, as if brushing it off. "It's not a big deal." Dorian cut her off. "And wasn't Elle not invited to Thanksgiving? What was that about?" Serafina's face flushed. That was different." "How?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. And that's when Dorian put it all together. The sister who's been paying for your entire education wasn't good enough to sit at the dinner table with your boyfriend's family? His voice was eerily calm, but there was an edge to it, like he was done. Serafina scrambled to explain. You don't get it, Dorian. It was just about appearances, about making a good impression. It's not like I don't appreciate what Elle's done, but she doesn't understand the world I'm trying to be a part of. Dorian let out a slow breath, shaking his head. You mean the world where you lie about where you come from? The world where the people who actually help you aren't polished enough to acknowledge? Her throat tightened. Wow. It was the only thing he said before he stood up and grabbed his keys. Serafina blinked. Wait! Where are you going? Dorian looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. I need some space. Her stomach dropped. You're seriously mad at me over this? Dorian didn't answer. He just walked out the door. And for the first time, Serafina realized she might have lost more than just her tuition. That night, my phone vibrated with a final text from her. I hope you're happy. You just ruined my life. I stared at the screen, waiting for the guilt to creep in. It didn't. I just set my phone down and finished my coffee. Because if she thought I had ruined her life, she was about to learn that she had done that all on her own. The next call wasn't from Serafina. It was from my mother. I stared at the screen, her name glowing like a warning. Margot Calloway. I could already hear the tone she'd use. The carefully measured disappointment. The soft sighs that carried more weight than words. The underlying message that I had somehow failed her. I let it ring twice before answering. Elle. Mom's voice was sharp, urgent. I just got off the phone with Serafina. She's hysterical. I leaned back against my kitchen counter, tightening my grip on my coffee mug. Yeah? Maybe she should have thought about that before she treated me like I didn't exist. Elle, she scolded, her voice dropping into that motherly, I'm trying to be reasonable tone. She's your sister. You can't just abandon her like this. I exhaled through my nose, forcing myself to stay calm. I didn't abandon her. I just stopped funding her lifestyle. She's just a kid. I laughed, short and humorless. Mom, she's 24. She doesn't know how to handle this kind of setback, Mom pressed. If she has to drop out, it'll ruin her future. Ah, there it was. The real reason she was calling. Not to ask how I was doing after being thrown out of Thanksgiving. Not to apologize for the way I'd been treated. No, this was about damage control. About fixing the mess Serafina had made of her life. And I was supposed to be the one to clean it up. Again. I stayed silent, waiting for her next move. Elle, please, Mom softened, sensing my resistance. You know how hard she's worked to get where she is. I swallowed the bitter taste rising in my throat. And where was she when I was working double shifts to make sure she never had to take out loans? Elle, where was she when she let you uninvite me to Thanksgiving because she was embarrassed by me? Mom let out a long, exasperated sigh. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I nearly dropped my mug. Are you serious? Mom, she erased me. She's been erasing me for years. She's only calling now because she lost her safety net. She's family, Mom stressed. We help each other. Funny how that only worked one way. I shook my head, pushing off the counter and pacing the kitchen. No, Mom. I helped her. I covered her tuition. I made sure she had a roof over her head. I gave her a future. And she couldn't even give me a seat at the damn dinner table. She's scared, Elle. She's young. She's selfish, I corrected. And I'm done cleaning up after her. There was a long pause. Then, in a voice coated with forced patience, Mom asked, So what do you expect her to do? Just drop out? Not my problem, I said flatly. Elle, she warned. I mean it, Mom, I said, already exhausted. Find someone else to foot the bill. Like who? She shot back. Your father and I can't afford it. You know that. And there it was. The truth buried beneath all the guilt-tripping. She never expected Serafina to figure it out on her own. She expected me to cave. But this time, I wouldn't. I guess Serafina's going to have to learn how to live like the rest of us, I said, reaching for the end call button. Elle? Click. The next few hours were quiet. Too quiet. Then, one by one, the rest of them started calling. Dad was first. "Elle, this is going too far." His deep voice rumbled over the phone. "You're punishing your own blood." Then, Aunt Delilah. "I never thought you'd be so heartless." "Uncle Larry, it's just money, Elle. You make plenty. Don't be petty." Cousins, family friends, even people I barely spoke to, all chiming in with some version of Elle. How could you? It was almost impressive, really. How quickly they had rallied behind Serafina. How easily they had turned me into the villain. Not one of them had defended me when I was shut out of Thanksgiving. Not one of them had called to ask how I was feeling. But the second Serafina lost her tuition payments, suddenly it was a crisis. I let their messages pile up unread. Then, just before midnight, Mom called again. This time, I picked up. "Let me guess," I said, voice flat. "You've gathered the entire family and decided to stage an intervention." "Elle, this isn't funny." "No," I agreed. "It's pathetic." Mom sucked in a breath. "How dare you? How dare I?" I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Where were all of you when I was working weekends, pulling overtime, making sure Serafina had everything she needed?" Silence. "Where were you when she pretended I didn't exist? When she hid me from her friends? When she made it very clear that my life, my work, wasn't good enough for her?" Mom cleared her throat. "Elle, it's not like that." "It is like that," I snapped. "And let me be very clear, Mom. I'm done. Serafina is on her own." I hung up, and I meant every word. But Serafina? She wasn't done fighting. At first it was subtle. A lingering look from a longtime client, a hesitation in the voices of family friends when they spoke to me. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining it. Then, one afternoon, as I was finishing up a routine inspection for Mrs. Carter, a woman who had been using my HVAC services for years, she gave me a pointed look. "I never thought you'd abandon your own sister like that, Elle," she said, her voice carrying that same judgmental edge I had come to recognize all too well. I froze, gripping the clipboard in my hands. "Excuse me?" She shook her head, sighing dramatically. "Family is supposed to take care of each other. I just didn't think you were the kind of person to turn your back on your own blood." There it was. I forced a tight smile. "Well, Mrs. Carter, I suppose that depends on which version of the story you've heard." She pursed her lips, but didn't say anything else. And I didn't give her the satisfaction of an explanation. Instead, I climbed into my truck, pulled out my phone, and opened social media. And there it was. Serafina had been busy. Her posts were vague but pointed, carefully worded to make herself look like the victim without ever outright mentioning me. Some people love money more than family. So disappointing. I always believed in supporting your siblings. Guess not everyone feels the same. The comments were filled with sympathy. "I can't believe your own family would do this to you. You deserve better, babe. Stay strong. You've always been the sweetest. People like that will regret their choices one day." I scrolled through in disbelief. My stomach clenched when I saw familiar names. Distant relatives, family friends. People who hadn't so much as sent me a text after Thanksgiving, now rallying behind her like she was some kind of helpless victim. And then, as if on cue, my phone started ringing. My aunt, then my uncle, then my mother. I silenced every call. I knew what they were going to say before they even opened their mouths. I had gone from being family to the villain in a matter of days, all because I refused to keep playing my role as the silent provider. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and started the engine. Enough. I was done letting her control the narrative. I didn't call ahead. I didn't warn her I was coming. I pulled up to Serafina's apartment, walked straight to her door, and knocked. Hard. It took a few moments, but then the door swung open. Serafina stood there, her phone still in her hand, eyes widening just slightly before she schooled her expression into something more composed. "Ellie," she said smoothly. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" I pushed past her into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. She scoffed, closing the door behind me. "Oh, come in. Why don't you?" I turned to face her, my jaw tight. What the hell do you think you're doing? She blinked, feigning innocence. I have no idea what you're talking about. I laughed coldly, pulling my phone from my pocket and holding up her latest post. Oh, you don't? Because this looks a hell of a lot like you trying to paint me as some heartless monster. Her lips curled into a smirk. I'm just telling the truth. My fingers curled around my phone. The truth? The truth is I paid your tuition for years while you pretended I didn't exist. The truth is I gave you everything, and you still acted like I was beneath you. She crossed her arms. And now you're mad because people are finally seeing who you really are? I took a step closer, lowering my voice. No, Serafina, you should be mad, because this little game you're playing, it won't end the way you think it will. Her smirk faltered just slightly. Oh, please, she scoffed. You think people are going to turn on me? I've built relationships, Elle. I have connections. Meanwhile, what? Fix air conditioners? Do you really think that makes you someone? My jaw tightened, but I didn't let her words sink in. Not anymore. I simply smiled. Go ahead, Serafina. Keep lying. Keep playing your little game. Keep manipulating people into thinking you're the victim. I turned toward the door, my hand on the handle. Then, just before leaving, I looked back at her. Because when this all crashes down on you, I won't be there to save you. And she was about to learn just how alone she really was. Because her perfect little world was already starting to fall apart. I didn't have to do anything. Serafina had spent years building a life on borrowed resources. My money, my sacrifices, my silence. But now that I had cut her off, the foundation beneath her was crumbling. And the best part? She had no one to blame but herself. Dorian was the first to realize something wasn't right. It started with a simple message. Anonymous. Sent to his inbox late at night. Did you know your girlfriend has been lying about who's paying her tuition? At first, he brushed it off. Internet trolls, people with nothing better to do. But something gnawed at him, an uneasy feeling he couldn't shake. He started digging. He contacted the university, pretending to be Serafina. It took him 3 tries to get through to the right department, but when he finally did, the answer was clear. Her tuition hadn't been paid. Not by her. Not by her parents. No record of payment for the upcoming semester. No scheduled transactions. Just a long history of payments from a now-removed sponsor, L. Calloway. That night, when Serafina showed up at his apartment, expecting another evening of wine and carefully curated romance, she was met with something else entirely. Dorian stood at the door, arms crossed, phone in hand. His expression was unreadable, but his voice, cold. Why did I have to hear from someone else that Elle was paying for your education? Serafina blinked. What? Dorian stepped aside, letting her walk in, but she already felt the shift in the air. The warmth between them was gone. I called the university, he continued, shutting the door behind her. I wanted to see if there was a way I could help with your tuition, since you were so stressed about it. But imagine my surprise when they told me you didn't even have a payment plan set up, because your sister was covering everything. Serafina's mouth opened, then closed. She swallowed hard, shaking her head. Dorian, it's not a big deal? His voice was sharp now. You lied to me. You let me believe your parents were paying for school, that you had everything under control, when all along it was Elle's money keeping you afloat. She tried to reach for his hand, her expression melting into something softer, something rehearsed. I just didn't want you to think I was some kind of charity case. Dorian pulled back. Oh, don't give me that. You had no problem using Elle as a walking ATM. And now that she finally stopped funding your life, you're trying to ruin her reputation? Serafina stammered. I just... Dorian let out a humorless laugh. I can't believe I was blind to this. He shook his head, running a hand through his hair. I don't even know who you are anymore. Her chest tightened. Dorian. He exhaled slowly, then met her eyes. I think you should go. She stared at him, stunned. You're breaking up with me? I can't be with someone who lies this easily, he said simply. The words hit her harder than she expected. For the first time, Serafina felt something crack inside her. She turned toward the door, waiting, hoping he would stop her. He didn't. The next morning, she woke up to something even worse. She had barely slept, eyes swollen from crying, her phone clutched in her hands, waiting for a message from Dorian that never came. But there was another notification waiting for her. An email. Subject: Final warning, tuition payment past due. She sat up, heart pounding. Dear Ms. Calloway, this is your final notice regarding your outstanding tuition balance. If payment is not received within 48 hours, you will be automatically unenrolled from your courses. Sincerely, University Finance Office. Serafina's stomach dropped. This wasn't happening. She scrambled out of bed, hands shaking as she clicked onto the student portal. The balance was still there. No pending payments. No extensions granted. Her mind raced. A loan. She could apply for a student loan. She pulled up the application form, typing in her parents' information, knowing she'd need them as co-signers. Denied. Bad credit. Too much outstanding debt. She gritted her teeth and tried again, using a different lender. Denied. Her hands clenched into fists. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. This wasn't her life. She picked up her phone, scrolling to Dorian's name. She hesitated, then pressed call. Voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. Tears burned in her eyes as she moved to the next contact. L. Her finger hovered over the dial button. But when she pressed it, the screen immediately flashed. User has blocked you. She was out of options. For the first time, Serafina truly realized, just how alone she was. So Serafina did what she always did. She lashed out. I was in the middle of a staff meeting when the front door to my office slammed open so hard it rattled the glass. The conversation around me died instantly. Every head in the room turned toward the entrance, and there she was. Serafina stood in the doorway, her hair a mess, eyes red-rimmed, breath heaving like she had sprinted here in a blind rage. The look on her face was pure fury. You ruined my life! She shrieked. I set my clipboard down, exhaling slowly. Here we go? No, I said, keeping my voice even. I stopped paying for it. You ruined it yourself. A hush fell over the office. Employees paused mid-task. A couple of clients in the waiting area exchanged nervous glances. But Serafina didn't care. She didn't care about the audience or the scene she was causing. She was here to make sure I suffered. You abandoned me, she spat, stepping further inside. You left me with nothing. How could you do this to your own sister? I crossed my arms, leaning against my desk. That's funny. I don't remember you calling me your sister when you were lying to your boyfriend about where your tuition money came from. Her jaw clenched. That's different. Is it? I tilted my head. Because it seems to me that you only acknowledge me when you need something. Her eyes darted around, as if searching for an ally. Someone who would see her side. Someone who would back her up. No one did. So she turned to Plan B. Lifting her chin, she let her voice rise, ensuring everyone in the room could hear. She abandoned her own family. Nothing. She's selfish. She only cares about herself. Silence. She's not who you all think she is. The weight of her words hung in the air, but there was no reaction, no sympathy, no outrage on her behalf. Just the quiet disapproval of people who had seen what kind of person she was in real time. And then, from the corner of the room, my senior employee Harry stepped forward. Ma'am, he said, his voice calm but firm. You need to leave. Serafina whirled on him. Excuse me? This is a place of business, Harry continued, unfazed. And you're disrupting it. I'm her sister, she shrieked. Harry barely blinked. And this is her business. You're trespassing. Serafina let out a strangled, frustrated sound. You don't understand. She's leaving me with nothing. She's ruining my future. Harry didn't flinch. No, ma'am. She just stopped letting you take advantage of her. That was it. That was the moment the realization sank in. No one here was on her side. Not anymore. Security arrived within minutes, called in by one of my employees, without me even needing to say a word. They escorted her out as she screamed and cursed, her voice echoing down the street. And just like that, she was gone. Later that night, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but a part of me knew this was the last time they'd try. The last time they'd bother. I sighed and picked up. Elle, we need to talk. Mom's voice was tight, her usual performance of gentle concern stretched thin. I didn't respond. Dad cleared his throat. Look, honey, maybe things got out of hand, but Serafina's young, she needs help. I closed my eyes, pressing the phone closer to my ear. Let me guess. You think I should help her? Mom exhaled sharply. Elle, come on. Maybe we can work something out? You're doing well after all. I laughed, low, bitter. Ah, I said, stretching my legs out on the couch. So now I'm part of the family again, when you need my money. Elle, don't be like this, Dad said, his voice stiff. We just think... No. Silence. You think I'll cave? That I'll do what I've always done? That I'll sacrifice my peace for her comfort? I shook my head, even though they couldn't see me. But I'm done. Find another ATM. And with that, I hung up. And for the first time, I truly felt free. But freedom comes at a cost. The first few days after cutting ties with my family were eerily quiet. No calls, no texts, no guilt-tripping voicemails trying to twist my own emotions against me. Just silence. It was a strange feeling, this newfound solitude. After years of being bombarded with their demands, their manipulations, their expectations, I was free. And yet, there was still that small part of me that expected my phone to ring at any moment, for someone to swoop in with another desperate plea. But no one did. Instead, the days stretched on, peaceful and uninterrupted. And for the first time, I allowed myself to breathe. It was Genevieve who finally broke the silence. I was on my lunch break, sitting outside my office with a coffee in hand, when her name popped up on my phone. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hey, I said, leaning back in my chair. Hey, she replied, her voice softer than usual. I wanted to check in, see how you're holding up. I exhaled, letting my eyes drift up to the winter sky. Honestly, better than I expected. There was a pause. Then, I figured. But I also figured you'd want to know what's going on with them. I didn't ask who them was. I already knew. Still, I didn't respond right away. Did I want to know? Did it even matter? Genevieve took my silence as permission to continue. Serafina moved back home, she said, her tone neutral. She's taking a break from school. Says she's going to figure things out, but, well, you know how she is. I closed my eyes, unsurprised. And your parents? I asked, already knowing the answer. They're struggling financially. But, of course, they won't admit you were right, she said with a humorless chuckle. They're still blaming you for everything, as if it's your fault that Serafina burned every bridge she had. I nodded to myself, taking a sip of my coffee. Sounds about right. They'll never change, Elle, she said after a pause. I hope you know that. I do, I murmured. I think I've always known. I just wasn't ready to accept it before. Well, she sighed, for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. A small smile tugged at the corner of my lips. Thanks, Jen. Anytime, she said. And hey, Merry Christmas. You deserve a good one this year. The day before Christmas Eve, I found myself sitting at my desk, staring at expansion plans for my business. It was growing faster than I had ever imagined. More clients, more employees, more opportunities. For so long, my success had felt like something I had to downplay, something I had to apologize for. But not anymore. I wasn't ashamed of the life I had built. I was investing in myself now, not in people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. And that was the most freeing realization of all. That night, as I was winding down for bed, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen. A text from my mother, Merry Christmas. We miss you. Let's talk? I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the screen. A year ago, I would have jumped at the chance. I would have let guilt guide me, would have second-guessed myself, would have given in. But not this time. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, then deleted the message. I had nothing left to say. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. And it felt damn good. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with something to think about. Life has a way of teaching us hard lessons, especially when it comes to family. We're raised to believe that family is everything, that no matter what, we should always be there for them. But what happens when that loyalty is one-sided? When your sacrifices are expected but never appreciated? Walking away from a toxic family dynamic doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're finally choosing yourself. And that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of. If there's one thing I hope you take away from my story, it's this. Your worth is not measured by what you can do for others. You are not an ATM. You are not a stepping stone. You deserve respect, even from the people who share your blood. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you ever walked away from a situation that was draining you? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you feel seen, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If you didn't like it, tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Trust me, we have plenty more to tell. Thanks for watching, and remember, choosing yourself is never the wrong choice. See you in the next one.